Hey, all right. Welcome to Mental Capital Investing. Thanks for joining us. This channel is all about showing you how to build trading and investing strategies from the ground up. That being said, welcome to our weekly market wrap, where we get together and talk about our personal market highlights from the week. This is designed to be a free flow discussion, totally unscripted. So keep in mind that we're not financial professionals and this is for entertainment purposes only. We're your hosts, Jeff and Spencer. And yeah, let's kick it off. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up from this week is the kind of ongoing battle between whether or not inflation is coming. And I feel like most people, the general consensus is that inflation is coming. So you have a huge pullback in bonds. Rates are up. The U.S. 10-year Treasury is up to about, what is it, 1.7%?
Yeah, 1.7% last I checked.
Yeah, so it's been hovering around there. That's been the major resistance area. And you basically have this panic ensuing because from where it came, which was, down as low as, half a percentage point there, or what do they call it, 50 basis points, coming up from that, it's a huge move up to 1.7%. And so that's convinced so many people, a lot of people that I actually respect, the people that I follow, they think inflation is coming. And honestly, I'm such a contrarian at heart. It's detrimental to me at times, but I don't know if I am convinced. And, I know you've sent me a couple little bits of material on that, Jeff, but there are a few things that make me doubt whether or not the inflation is actually coming, or if this is a false alarm and that we're going to see kind of a resumption of the deflationary trends that we've kind of basically been established for the past couple of years. I don't know, Jeff, how much you were following the markets. I think in 2018, we had almost exactly this, though the rates were higher. You had a pullback in bonds. You had a rise in rates, and everybody was saying exactly this. Finally, we're going to get some inflation because the bond bull market is over, right? We've had this long-term bond bull market, lower and lower rates, since 2008. Well, even longer than that, honestly. But you've got the same pattern repeating itself, and so I'm not sure if this is the one, because there's so many different forces at play here that it's really tough to say which one's going to win out. So I can give you two examples of that. So there's a thing called have you ever heard of Eurodollars?
Eurodollars.
Euro? Yeah, Euro dollars. What those are, so
not tracking that.
Yeah, world trade. Yeah, so trade is done in dollars for the most part across the world. And you have basically what a Eurodollar is, an offshore dollar, any dollar that is held outside of the U.S. banking system.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I get where you're going with this. Just the fact that we have all this currency that's constantly in use overseas, that kind of, in a way, is its own unique hedge against.
Right. Well, it also tells you a lot. What's happening with that system actually tells you a lot about what the market expectations are for future inflation, rate hikes, and things like that. And so there's a guy named Jeff Snider. He just did an interview on a podcast called Macro Voices. What I found really interesting there is he's basically saying that the Eurodollar futures market, which is the future interest rates on those Eurodollars, think money market funds. He's saying that this curve, because you can look at a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, and basically see what people are pricing in on those futures, you can see that they are not expecting any inflation. There's probability that there might be one rate hike from the Fed or something, but there is just no sign of significant inflation. And in general, the Fed, the Federal Reserve, they are the ones raising rates in order to combat inflation. And if they were going to do it, if they were expected to do it, you would see a much different curve in the Eurodollar futures. And so he's saying that it's forecasting maybe one hike in the next 3-4 years, something like that. So I respect his viewpoint quite a bit.
Why do you respect his view? What kind of credentials does he have?
Yeah, so he's a guy that has been. I mean, he runs his own hedge fund, and he's been really open about trying to teach people how the Eurodollar system works. You know, how the plumbing of the financial system works across the world, and how money creation happens outside of the U.S., specifically around Eurodollars, because they're tied to the U.S. dollar and the currency. They're supposedly one and the same, but they're kind of not. So nobody really has control over the system. And we can put in the show notes a link to a lot more of his information. It's really interesting stuff if you're so inclined. But so he's come out and said this stuff, and man, it's a pretty tough piece of information to dispute. And so I have my doubts. But before I jump, and there's another side of this here too that makes me think that maybe inflation isn't coming just yet, and that's around how the U.S. policy actually has to take shape with things like sending more stimulus checks out, or fiscal spending on infrastructure, or buying the Fed buying bonds and controlling interest rates. All of the policy tools that we have available to us in the U.S. government may not actually be as inflationary as people think. And so I'm really wrestling with that side of things, and whether or not, because that has huge implications for how we're going to be investing. Right?
I mean, it could crash the market, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
It would drop all these growth stocks people have invested in for the last year and a half, 2 years. They goodbye. Good game.
Yep. Because
good game. I think there are a select few stocks out there, a select few organizations and companies that are well positioned. In my personal opinion, they're well positioned to resist the type of negative pressure that would cause.
Yeah.
But those are few and far between. These are basically stocks, in my mind, that I think have just so much competitive advantage base that you really are not going to see much movement, if anything. In other words, it would be superficial movement. You would see people repositioning portfolios, and that may cause some selling in those stocks initially. But if anything, they would just be opportunities to buy the dip, more or less, because they aren't going anywhere. I'll give you a prime example of one of those stocks. One that I personally regret selling out of a few months ago, that I always keep a close eye on because I'm a huge nerdy computer science tech jabroni, and that is NVIDIA. What a run-up they had. They're over $600 now.
Crazy, yeah.
Busted through that 600 barrier. They've been hovering between $550 around there for the past couple months. Just kind of consolidating there.
Yeah.
I was thinking that maybe they're going to make a jump. I didn't quite know the timing, and kind of fell off my radar a little bit because I was looking at other things, and bam, they are having a run-up. What's funny is they're having a run-up in the most strangest of markets, where computer chip manufacturing, everyone's like, there's no chips for the cars. There's no chips for the cars. Oh my God. I know NVIDIA sells chips to those cars. I know that's part of their business, is they sell computer chips to cars. I do believe Hyundai buys all their chips from them. I got to fact check, but I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah. I saw it on their website. In addition to that, who's buying up all the frickin' cards now? Crypto miners, even more so than before. I think it was a few weeks ago. I was looking online. What's a GTX or a RTX 3090 going for right now? You know how much they're selling for right now?
No.
I saw a few for like $5,000, $6,000. You know what the retail MSRP of that is? Around $1,200.
Wow.
$1,300.
Are those still the top of the line crypto mining card? Because I feel like they had other semiconductor companies have come out with specialized mining.
So they do have specialized mining chips, yes. Okay. Specifically, China. China makes, basically they use a type of ASCII code chips and they're pure compute power chips.
Yeah.
But they are only good for specific types of mining, mainly Bitcoin. They do make other ones for other currencies, I believe Ethereum as well. But the problem is, not a lot of people can get them. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
They make them in massive bulk orders, and people who own warehouses, in Iceland, or in the Arctic, where they don't have to pay AC, they're probably melting ice caps up there with how much crypto they're mining. They're the ones buying it all. And not only are they buying all those, they're buying all the GPUs too. Because the thing about, crypto mining is every time a block of cryptological math gets mined out of that currency, it becomes more difficult each time.
Yeah. Yep.
And so as it becomes more difficult, you need stronger processors to do that. And the 3090 is by far, they've always been the market lead. So anyway, bottom line is NVIDIA, massive jump up today, despite all these negative trends in the market with chips and stuff. I think, in my opinion, they're one of those companies that are going to be sort of a hedge against any inflationary nonsense that occurs. Right. You can't go wrong with a computer chip manufacturing company as strong and as well positioned as NVIDIA. They're in cars, they're in AI, they're in all types of computer graphics technology. They embed themselves. You know how much stuff they give away? Research organizations for research, for AI research, for chemical research. All their stuff. Crazy. All their stuff in the universities. People use it. They give away their software for free to the universities because they know that in the future, when they become scientists, they're going to want their stuff.
Shit, it's funny. NVIDIA is definitely one of my one of those stocks that I was so contrarian about that I kicked myself in my own ass. And so what happened was,
why were you contrarian about that?
Here's the thing, though. Back when it was around 180, it was on my radar. I had some people telling me about it, and I was like, "This is overvalued, sir." And I just didn't see how I just didn't see it, and I was just stubborn. I've learned to be a little bit more flexible as I've spent
all right, so I need to understand this. How did you even think? So to me, as a total geeky engineering nerd, like I'm the guy who's watching on YouTube some engineer looking at their computer chips, like, oh yeah, you see this? That's the power capacitor. And this little power voltage fluctuation chip, this is a high quality chip. This allows for really smooth voltage transfers to the graphics processing unit across. I look at all that stuff because for me, it's awesome, And I will tell you this, nobody is as forward thinking in the industry as them. AMD, in my opinion, is always playing catch up to NVIDIA because they can never invent stuff fast enough. They were the first to ray tracing, real-time ray tracing, computer graphics. I mean, it's awesome stuff right there.
Well, when I really realized I was wrong was when we were sitting in our Discord, and I heard you, Rock, and all the other dudes in there being like, "Oh my God, can you find one of the 380s? I can't find it. I just hit refresh on my cart, and I just all of a sudden really just got it." And I was like, "Oh, you know what? I was just so wrong on this." I hadn't looked at the stock for a while. I kind of had written it off. I was focusing on other things, but man, do I regret not.
I traded it heavily.
On that one.
Granted, I probably should have just invested in it. And keep in mind, investing and trading, they're different sports, right?
Yes.
I definitely was trading it. I traded in the upswings. I was always watching it. I kind of dropped the ball on this latest pump. I already had it targeted like a month ago. I was like, look at this thing consolidate. It's going nowhere but up. The demand is there. Yeah, there's a chip shortage. In my opinion, even better.
Yep.
Make more. They can't make enough. Amazing.
That's crazy.
The value is going to go through the roof, right? So anyway, I'll tell you another one. So I know Coinbase came out this week. Yeah. What a crazy stock that is going to be. So Jim Cramer, he's saying that anything below $500 is a buy.
Interesting.
Yes, that's what he's saying. Just buy it. ARK Invest, the day it came out, bought 500,000 shares
At what price?
They
don't say.
They don't say. They don't say. You know they bought it right at open though.
Yeah.
You know why? Because you can see it in the chart. Thing went freaking through the roof. Literally in the first hour, like up to $400 something. Because they're buying and buying and buying and buying, right? And it's an open market listing, right? So who's selling? Right? People who own shares in the company are selling.
Yeah.
Right.
Those guys who got it at 250 at the open.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're taking profit. And I mean, good for them too. I mean, Coinbase is a really fascinating. Just the whole industry is fascinating to me.
For sure.
ARK Invest is saying, I was listening to Kathy Wood speak about it the other day while I was at the gym, and she's saying that it's going to be pretty big deal. She's saying significant upside. Very bullish statements from Kathy Wood. She thinks they're going to just be the quintessential company for financial institutions. What she's talking about. She's not focusing so much on the retail trading, which is a big part of it. She's focused more on financial institutions taking a bite out of the crypto market. How are they going to do that? They're going to do it through Coinbase.
Didn't Tesla do it through Coinbase?
They did.
Okay.
$1.5 billion of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Freaking retarded. And you know what else is crazy too about all this is he already made like 25% off of his money on that. Guy literally made $500 million just by buying Bitcoin. Like,
I know that's ridiculous.
Like most companies don't make $500 million in revenue. Like, that's some crazy shit.
You need more on buying Bitcoin than
that's some crazy shit right there. But yeah, that Tesla is another one in my opinion, and I know you're kind of on the other side of the fence on this one, which is cool. But I think they are really one of those forward-thinking companies that, as someone like me who loves engineering, I love engineering, man. Talk about like metallurgy, like all the cool stuff. Like I love learning about that stuff. I love learning, oh man, Tesla angles their magnets in their rotors at 140 degrees. What? That's 40 degrees. I was looking. Oh, dude, I love it. I love seeing. Because in looking at the details, if you see consistent trends in the detail, especially at the engineering level, right? Because that's where the rubber meets the road. Sure. There's no doubt. That's where the rubber meets the road. Engineering. You can't engineer things right. You're going to fail regardless. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter what it is. So it's amazing to see at every little piece of their technology how they're innovating. And yes, they are a new car company. Yes, they have issues. Yes, for some reason their body shops can't figure out how to paint things correctly. Okay? Yes, I will admit. And you don't have to like Elon, right? You don't have to like him as a CEO. You don't have to like him as a person. Just forget about that. Throw that out the window and just look at the facts. Look at the engineering facts with what their company is trying to accomplish. So I bring this up because this week some footage came out from Sandy Monroe. And if you're not familiar with him, he runs a engineering enterprise that's designed around giving people in the automotive industry the what's what of the most innovative technology out there. They will literally take a product and dissect absolute insanity out of it, and literally do metallurgical tests on everything in a lab.
Also, they take apart the cars and stuff.
Everything, yeah, totally. Like try to take, and then they sell the research, right? That's kind of their business model. So he's kind of the what's what in the car industry. He's been in the car industry a long time. I think he's got a really interesting opinion. So he discovered some really interesting things throughout the last couple of years as he was looking at their cars, and that they aren't just buying off-the-shelf components to make their motors or anything like that. They are literally building everything from scratch, completely unique to what anyone can actually buy on the market. Their magnets are completely different than any type of neodymium magnet you buy from motor. And if you're not familiar with the technology, why those magnets are so important in electrical motors is because as the motor's generating that electrical field, causing it to spin, you have counter forces that are also being generated that are causing it to refuse to spin. And so to do that, you have to arrange these magnets that can help counteract that force as it cycles through its motions, right? And they've invented a magnet that is literally totally different than a neodymium magnet you can buy in the market. It's like they put it under an electron microscope. Literally, it's totally looks different. Does the same thing, but it's probably more powerful. You can tell by the electron microscope image, it's definitely more dense. Another interesting thing. You would think that the housing that covers the metal piece of the motor, right, the actual motor housing, is a piece of aluminum, right?
Right.
Why not? Not at Tesla. According to Sandy, they have developed new types of aluminum alloys that enhances and isolates the magnetic properties of the engine. Nobody has these alloys. They don't know what they are. They don't know what they are.
Research and development to do this, because that sounds that sounds pretty more advanced than I would have expected from them.
Yeah, right. So I think it's what it shows you is that what I've been realizing over the past year or so, I've been watching this company very heavily, is that they are so vertically integrated in their production process that they do every single thing themselves. They never buy anything off the market. Like normally when you outsource, right, you're saying like, oh, I'm going to develop a pencil company, but I don't want to make erasers. You know what? I'll go with that guy. That guy makes erasers. I'll buy his erasers. That's not what Tesla does. Tesla says, you know what? Look at how that shit erases. That erases like garbage. We're going to develop a new type of eraser. And nobody else is going to have this eraser. That's what they do. They do that for every single part of their business. It's insane. In-house AI development. They have metallurgists working on new alloys. So it's like literally those little things that are coming together to make a car that, from a performance standpoint, okay,
right.
Audi GT came out. I'm a big Audi fanboy. I love Audis. I got two Audis. I love Audis. Audi GT came out. What do they call it? The EV GT. You know, their new RS GT model for their e-tron, and 0 to 64-ish seconds. An RS model electric vehicle is supposed to be the highest racing sport, like run your face over awesome. They can only do 4 seconds. The eco freaking model of a Tesla Model 3 can do seconds. The performance model of the Model 3 does 3.2, which is super retarded for your common little saloon. I'm a daily drive it car, right? Like that's like supercar fast right there. Their S class, their big boy. I'm an executive, awesome guy class. Like, you know, your A6s, your i7 BMW type style cars. 2 seconds, bro. 2 seconds, 0 to 60 on that thing. Like,
so the closest competitor can get to 4, huh?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. 4 seconds. I believe that's about. And keep in mind, Volks, don't let it deceive you. Volkswagen Group owns Porsche and Audi. They own both of them, so you know they share that tech. You know, whatever it's put in the Porsche Taycan electric model is going to be in the Audi GT e-tron. Same thing, same tech, most definitely. And that's the best they can do. So that just shows you right there that there are some performance enhancing things about their technology, about their ability to harness performance at every little aspect. It's just insane, dude. The more I'm telling you, the more you look into it, the more you will be convinced. You just got to look into that.
So that's actually pretty interesting, because I haven't been able to talk to anybody who has such a deep knowledge of that part of the company, right? So what I find, so there's still an open question for me, and I'd be curious what you think about this. So you've got, and actually I had a question earlier. Don't they buy their batteries from Samsung?
No, Panasonic.
Yeah, that's it.
Panasonic. So they do buy their batteries from Panasonic, but
do they modify them?
Well, here's the thing. They've got like this strange relationship with Panasonic where they have a permanent supply chain with Panasonic, where Panasonic actually has taken their battery manufacturing equipment and embedded it inside Tesla's factories. It was part of their business deal. So believe it or not, they are making the batteries inside the Tesla factories. Panasonic is there with them working in their factories on stuff, which is kind of crazy way to do business. You don't just buy it from, but they want to reduce that supply chain, right? They want to create that logistic efficiency. So of course they did it that way. Very interesting. But yes, they do have new battery types. They have made so many advances in battery technology, in my personal opinion, totally revamping the way they do things. Now, keep in mind, I do recommend you go watch the Battery Day video they did last year, because they kind of line out all the little things that they've done to enhance battery technology and streamline it. A lot of different things. Everything from trying to figure out how to metallurgically cut out cobalt completely, because it's such a toxic environmental pollutant. I know you're a big fan of mining. You know cobalt's terrible.
Yep.
Absolutely terrible.
I like cobalt miners.
What's that?
I'm not a big cobalt guy. I don't like.
Yeah, it's I don't know all the bad things that come from it, but apparently it's freaking bad. So yeah, get rid of the cobalt. So they pretty much managed to do that with a lot of their battery tech now. They've gotten to that advanced level where they can replace it with other metal compounds. And they're also doing a lot of things like removing the anodes out of the battery, making the whole thing one big anode instead of having like a little thing go in there and help transfer the electrons throughout the battery. They're doing totally revolutionizing how this stuff is created. Stuff that people say was impossible to do, they're doing it. They're inventing it from the ground up. All the machines. It's like Elon said, their goal isn't the end product. He says that their product is the machine that builds the machine that builds the. That's their product, because that's where your efficiencies are at the ground level. Engineering, first principles engineering, right? The like little bottom bits. That's why they're gonna win, man. That's why they're gonna win. It's that piece right there. And you know what? There's another piece of this that nobody ever touches on, is the human resource piece. You know, they are hiring all the most genius people out there. The best AI programmer in the world. That's where he works, Tesla. And the thing that really makes me think a lot about this, and I'm just waiting for these theses to come out, business world, is this whole his thought process around leadership in an organization where innovation is the driver behind your success in a company, not working hard. They don't care if you work hard. They care if you innovate. So, his words, if you are caught not innovating in the company, you will be kicked out. They rather you innovate and fail than not innovate at all. So if you don't have the guts to put your career on the line and innovate, then you definitely don't have a job. And that's fascinating mindset to me. That's because you don't see that a lot in organizations. Usually it's follow the rules. Hear the rules, you follow the rules, you do the work. This is basically saying the opposite. It's like saying break all the rules. Find a better way.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're giving me something to think about there. I think I don't think I ever went too deep on the technology side, though I do find the fact that they're able to outperform their closest competitor by that much, because that is a big deal in the car world, that kind of torque on vehicles. But the financial side of things, where where I kind of keep raising an eyebrow. You know, like now that they've bought Bitcoin and made $500 million off their investment, good on you, man. You can probably sustain yourself for quite a while. You know, so don't get me wrong, he's winning, but look at the stock price. But before the Bitcoin investment, they were living off of the EV credits. You know, that's how they were able to kind of minimize their losses and kind of show profits in certain ways. And so the financial side of things always looked a little fishy to me. Now, I never went short the company because they were obviously just on a tear, and they had the kind of popular support that I just didn't want to try to mess with. But yeah, time will tell, man. But that I do have to say that on the technology side, I think you give me a thing or two to think about as to whether I'm judging them fairly.
Yeah, the tech side. And the thing is, too, don't make the mistake that a lot of people have made. Like, look at all the analysts. They're all changing their tune now. Now, every single analyst out there, including Morgan Stanley, they have over $1,000 price targets on this.
Right. Yeah. No. I saw how all those upgrades started happening. Once
the reason is because people are coming to the conclusion that it's not just a car company, also a software. People have been referencing Tesla to like an iPhone. Look at the iPhone. Everybody's got an iPhone now. And guess what happens when you buy an iPhone? You use their app store. And what's on their app store? Oh, a bunch of annoying shenanigan things to waste your money on. Same thing with Tesla. First piece of software, self-driving. How much they've been charging more and more for it as they've been getting it better and better. Remember, it's AI based. It works off cameras. AI sees things, does some analysis, figures out what's what. You know, it's different than the LiDAR shenanigans they've got out there, right?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, LiDAR uses like laser, I forget what it stands for, but laser area detection. Basically, it uses some type of signal, sends out signals, gets signals back, and then does its analysis based on that. But the thing is, it's got to pair itself with like GPS imaging, and the GPS maps are restricted to high definition scans of GPS areas only. It can't just do it willy-nilly. It has to have high def mapped area. So someone has to actually take one of those high definition mapping trucks, like match it with the GPS and map a whole road, and then the LiDAR thing work. But it does also have a ton of extra sensors and equipment on it. The way the Tesla thing works is it's just based on AI analyzing images and cameras, which, if you know anything about AI, that's actually the easiest thing for AI to do, is analyze images. That's why there's so much success in the AI world. Cancer screening. Radiologists, you know I'm a medical guy, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I've read a whole bunch about how like they've seen that AIs are actually much better at diagnosing various diseases, not just cancer, than doctors.
Yeah, you know, it's because they're really good at image analysis, man. Yeah. They can go through images, radiological scans, and keep in mind, radiological scans are not just like pictures. How you like what you see as a picture, but what the doctors see when they actually dig through that nonsense is actually it's a layered, three-dimensional structured image from different angles and perspectives. You know, it can be real. Definitely, I wouldn't know how to do it, but you can easily program an AI to know what to look for.
Cool.
So that's a big thing with radiology. All right, well, we're at 30 minutes now.
Yeah. So, did you have any other points that you want to discuss?
No, not really. I think for me, just this coming week, definitely going to keep watching Coinbase. Yeah. Definitely going to keep watching Tesla. I still think Tesla's like really cheap right now. They've got earnings coming up soon. Tesla's, I think, end of April. They got earnings coming up. They've already beat their delivery target for first quarter by a big margin, despite having several factory production lines closed for upgrades. They still beat their production targets. So, I think we're going to see Tesla go back up to where it was, $800-ish. Probably maybe we might hit those price targets. I don't know. My eyes, that's what I'm looking at. Coinbase, Tesla. Made a few trades, just some trades this past week, just looking at Mara and NNDM. I don't know if you track NNDM. They're like a 3D printing.
Oh, yeah.
3D printing. I believe they 3D print computer chips and stuff. Cool. So, which is kind of different than how most people make computer chips. So, more like the actual boards, the computer boards is what they're printing. I know ARK invests heavily, looking at them as a stronger investment. I know they own some shares of them.
Cool.
Those are some things I'm watching this coming week.
Cool. Yeah, and so I actually took a pretty drastic. I made a pretty drastic change to my portfolio at the moment. So I had a lot of uranium longs, so I closed all those out, and that was a big bulk of some of the money that I was playing with. And so now what I did, because of the way the market looks right now, since the COVID crash, you can kind of see how it's just basically bounced back. It's at all-time highs, and we're getting to a point where volatility in the VIX is getting pretty low. We're basically back to pre-COVID levels, and there's a lot of optimism around reopening, vaccines, etc. And any kind of stumble there could be fuel for a pretty beefy correction. We're not talking anything crazy like we had back in March of last year, but I basically moved things around, and I purchased a straddle on the market, and I have it balanced such that I don't anticipate the market to stay still, right? So I'm fairly certain that we're not going to have a flat market over these next 3 to 6 months. So what I'm looking at is having a bit of a shorter duration option on the front, or on the call side, and what that'll allow me to do I'll have a bigger gamma value on that'll allow me to cover any losses from the put side, which is a longer duration, so it has a larger theta there, but it's going to have so basically, if the market keeps going up, I'm going to be able to roll that option with a very minimal loss, roll that straddle up, and reposition until I see a correction. Because I don't know. The market could keep going up for another 6 to 8 months. Who the heck knows? I don't. And so I want to be able to position myself in a way that I can kind of ride it out. And it's a very low stress position for me. I'm fairly comfortable with it. So I'm that's kind of where I put everything. And uranium was a little bit overdone. It had a nice push. It had a nice push up, and it's been kind of consolidating for a little while now.
Kind of take profits.
Yeah, I just took some profits, and I wanted to position in a way that I've got a new baby at home. I'm not sleeping, so I want to like lower. I want to minimize the attention that I need to pay to the markets over the next couple of weeks. This is the perfect strategy for me right now, and that was all about trade construction. And it is actually a trade that I learned from someone else. His name's Patrick Ceresna. He's been pretty open about teaching it on various podcasts and other things like that. But it's a great trade construction tip. That's something we'll definitely be covering in another video.
Sweet. I was just going to say that. So yeah. I don't think our viewers know what the DIX is, or at least not many of them.
Oh yeah, sure.
So that's something we'll put a link to in the description if you guys want to see it. We'll make a video on explaining the DIX. We'll also make a video. You're gonna make a video explaining your strategy.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. We'll do that too, so you guys can see that as well. Little market hedge. So should be interesting. Definitely. This was a really long video. I know when we were talking about doing this, we only were talking about making it like 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes max, and we doubled that easily with our discussion. Yeah, and I thought it's been great discussion, really. Oh, I definitely learned a bit, and we didn't script any of this, so we're trying to keep it very natural and informative. Yeah. So not only are we learning from each other, but we hope you as a viewer can learn through us learning as well.
Right.
We think that definitely has value. So we come to these discussions with ammunition that we think is.
Yeah.
That being said, if you want to have us live stream this over an hour, if you guys think that would be an interesting thing to do, we'll happily do that. We could put it on Twitch, set up a live stream or YouTube live, whatever you guys would like. I think that would be cool. This way you guys can participate. So please leave your comments below. Let us know what you think about the format of this discussion. Anything you want to close out with?
Yeah, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear what you have to say about it. And, thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate you guys watching. And again, please like and subscribe. Helps us out a lot. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers.